Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the CD guy, Johnny Z here. Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel. And today, I'm going to be continuing the series of top 10 musicians here on the channel. I'm going to be counting down the top 10 greatest classic rock drummers of all time. Before we get started here, I do want to give a preliminary honorable mention to Buddy Rich. Now, Buddy Rich, not really regarded as a rock drummer, but more so as a jazz drummer, which is why he didn't make the actual top 10 here, but nonetheless regarded as one of the best drummers of all time, and so influential to a number of great rock drummers, which will be included here on this list. So I did want to give a preliminary early honorable mention here to Buddy Rich because of how influential he was to so many great drummers, and like I said, a lot of which will be included here on this list. We kick off the list here with my number 10, the co-founder of Van Halen, Alex Van Halen. You know, somebody who, unfortunately, will probably always be in the shadow of his brother, but an exceptional player nonetheless, a great drummer, and a huge part of what made that Van Halen sound so great and so powerful, right? Somebody who laid down some awesome drum beats to classic Van Halen tracks throughout their catalog, and Alex Van Halen, characterized with that gigantic drum kit, playing a very fast and intricate style as well, incorporating that double bass sound into his drumming, which just sounds awesome. And like I said, probably always going to be in the shadow of Eddie Van Halen, but definitely deserving of some recognition here on the drums. An excellent drummer and a huge part of the Van Halen sound. My number 10 on the list, the wickedly underrated Alex Van Halen from Van Halen. Next at number 9, I'm going to go with Dave Grohl, and Dave Grohl is somebody who's become synonymous as the frontman for the Foo Fighters over the last 20 years or so, but Dave Grohl from 1990 to 1994 was the drummer for Nirvana, and, you know, I've talked about this before on the channel. I'm really not a big Nirvana fan. I'm just not. I see why people love Nirvana, but for me personally, they're just not one of my favorite bands, but I do recognize Dave Grohl's playing as a fantastic drummer, you know, somebody who played super powerful and aggressive, right, some really bold drumming, and when you look at the Nirvana sound from Bleach to Nevermind, I think the biggest difference there has to be Dave Grohl's drumming, right? Dave Grohl did not appear on Bleach, but did appear his first Nirvana studio album on Nevermind, which definitely shows a maturity in the Nirvana sound. I think Dave Grohl's drumming, the addition of Dave Grohl, I should say, does have a huge part to do with that. Dave Grohl, like I said, a fantastic drummer, somebody who is so explosive and aggressive and powerful, and even though I'm not a Nirvana fan, I do need to recognize that. So coming in at number 9, I'm going to go with Dave Grohl, formerly of Nirvana, currently the frontman for the Foo Fighters. Coming in at number 8 here on the list, I'm going to go with Peter Criss, formerly of Kiss, and, you know, Peter Criss is a very different drummer. He's not really a rock drummer, per se. He was very much influenced by rhythm and blues and jazz, so he definitely did incorporate that into his playing, which is something different, and I think the key word there is different, and when it came to the 1978 solo albums, and Peter Criss's album in particular, it was very different and very un-Kiss-like, if you will, which I think turned a lot of people off to his solo album, but for me personally, I love it because of how different it is, and I love it when bands or artists incorporate their own personal influences into their playing, and if you look at the Kiss catalog in which Peter Criss appears on, he does a great job of doing that and being very different from other drummers at the time in the rock genre. And, you know, one example of that is there's really no drum solo quite like Peter Criss's. One of the best drum solos in rock, and definitely the best drummer for Kiss, in my opinion. Part of the original 4 guys, and in my opinion, there's only one true cat. The best, one of the best there is, in my opinion, coming in at number 8 here on the list. The very different but still awesome Peter Criss, formerly of Kiss. When it comes to some of the best players who stylistically fit the band that they're in to a T, I think you definitely need to think about Nick Mason from Pink Floyd. My number 7 here on the list. Just such a captivating player, one of the best from the progressive rock genre, in my opinion, and his playing, I could just get lost in his playing for hours. You know, I think that his best performances probably lie on Dark Side of the Moon, but in general, every Pink Floyd album in which he appears in, he does a fantastic job. I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe the only Pink Floyd album in which he had little to no involvement with was The Final Cut, but every other album in which he appears on is a fantastic job by Nick Mason on drums, just great playing, and like I said, a perfect fit for the Pink Floyd sound. My number 7 on the list, one of the best to ever do it, Nick Mason from Pink Floyd. My pick for number 6 is Phil Rudd from AC/DC, just a down-to-business, no-nonsense player, described by Eric Singer as the heart and soul of the band, and, you know, even though AC/DC have had a handful of other players in the past, such as Simon Wright and Chris Slade, I think Phil Rudd is the best fit for the band, and, you know, also worth checking out is some of his solo material, which is also really cool, definitely worth checking out if you have the time. Moving on now into the top 5, my number 5 on the list is going to be Ian Paice from Deep Purple, someone who's been in the band for over 50 years, and one of the most influential players of all time, in my opinion. You know, somebody who is credited for being one of the first to use the blast beat technique in their playing, as well as the double bass intro, and, you know, when it comes to some of my favorite Ian Paice drumming performances, I think one track that immediately comes to mind is The Mule, and in particular, The Mule in a live setting with the extended drum solo. Even more in particular, the one off of Made in Japan is amazing, right? Probably one of my favorite Ian Paice drum performances of all time, and another track that features some of Ian Paice's great drumming at full display. You got to think about Burn, the title track to this album right here. Ian Paice is just on fire during that song, no pun intended, but even in his older age, he's still such an explosive, energetic, youthful drummer, and for that reason, he cracks the top 5 on my list. Coming in at number 5, gotta go with Ian Paice from Deep Purple. Following that up at number 4, I'm going to go with Charlie Watts from the Rolling Stones, the late great Charlie Watts, who unfortunately passed away last year, but an incredible drummer, very unique because of the way he would implement some jazz elements into his playing as well, described by many as a jazz aficionado, so really cool that he would use some of those jazz influences in his playing. You love to see that. Described by many as one of the best drummers of all time, including the likes of Joan Jett, Paul McCartney, and Slash from Guns N' Roses as well. And having seen the Rolling Stones live a couple years ago, that's where I got this shirt. It's really cool to have seen Charlie Watts live, and what blew me away was how effortlessly he looked like he was playing, and he had this small little drum kit, and it looked like he was playing so effortlessly, but at the same time, he was emitting just these awesome, powerful sounds from his drum kit, which is really, really cool, and a great player live as well was Charlie Watts, so for those reasons, gotta be in the top 5 somewhere. Coming in at number 4, the late great Charlie Watts from the Rolling Stones, a super unique and influential drummer, regarded by many as one of the best. Top 3 now, and coming in at number 3, I'm going to go with Neil Peart from Rush, and really anybody in my top 3 here could realistically be number 1, but the way I'm feeling today, coming in at number 3, I'm going to go with Neil Peart, the late great Neil Peart, formerly of Rush, and, when it comes to some of the best Neil Peart drumming tracks, got to immediately think about Xanadu and YYZ, Tom Sawyer as well, a great drum solo in YYZ, one of the best from Neil Peart, and known for his complex playing as well as incorporating jazz and swing elements into his music as well, which, like I said before, is really cool to hear drummers incorporating outside influences into their playing. You gotta love that. And all in all, like I said, one of the all-time best. Could realistically be number 1 here on this list. All of my top 3 are pretty interchangeable today, but the way I'm feeling right now, coming in at number 3, one of the all-time greats, Neil Peart from Rush. Number 2 here on the list, I'm going to go with John Bonham from Led Zeppelin, and one of the most influential players of all time is John Bonham, another one who could reasonably be my number 1 here on the list. Like I said, my top 3 are pretty interchangeable, but John Bonham, one of the all-time best, regarded as one of the best, and regarded as one of the most powerful hard rock drummers of all time. But one thing that I enjoy about his playing, and this actually took place a little bit later on in the Led Zeppelin catalog, but I really enjoy when he incorporated funk and Latin elements into his playing as well, because, like I said before, I love it when drummers, or any musician really, incorporates outside influences into their playing, because it offers a customizable aspect of their playing that's unique to them. I think that's really cool, and there were few more unique than John Bonham on the drums. Also regarded as one of the best drum soloists of all time. Some of my favorite John Bonham drum performances have to include the live drum solo for Moby Dick, when they would extend that drum solo out for like 30 minutes in a live setting, and John Bonham would just absolutely go to town on the drums. That is so cool, and, like I said, one of the best John Bonham drum performances. Also, I think some of his best drumming does take place on When the Levee Breaks and Stairway to Heaven as well. Just great stuff, and those are classic tracks for a reason. I think John Bonham does have a lot to do with that, and all in all, I think John Bonham does have a lot to do with how massive Led Zeppelin are, and how unique their style of playing is. So John Bonham, one of the best of all time, one of the most unique players to ever play the drums, in my opinion. Super influential, like I said before. Definitely belongs in the top 3 somewhere. Coming in at number 2 here on the list. How I'm feeling today. Gonna put John Bonham in the number 2 spot. Before we get to my number 1, I do have a handful of honorable mentions that I want to give out here. So, honorable mentions go out to the late great Taylor Hawkins, who recently passed away from the Foo Fighters. Not a big Foo Fighters guy, but Taylor Hawkins was a fantastic drummer who unfortunately passed away way too soon. So, definitely want to give him some special recognition here. Also, some honorable mentions go out to Phil Collins from Genesis, and shout out to Steve Zuby, who I know is a huge Phil Collins guy. Also, some more honorable mentions to Matt Cameron and Eric Carr, the late great Eric Carr, formerly of Kiss, who unfortunately passed away, again, way too soon. Another one of those drummers who had so much talent but unfortunately died while they were in their prime. Very unfortunate, but again, wanted to give him an honorable mention here. So, 4 honorable mentions in total, all great players, but I can only fit 10 on the list. And finally, coming in at number 1, who I think is the greatest classic rock drummer of all time, I gotta go with Keith Moon, formerly of The Who. Keith Moon, one of those drummers who is regarded by so many as so influential, and regarded commonly as one of the greatest drummers to have ever lived. I definitely would agree with that, and I chose to show up live at Leeds here because I think it's probably the best Keith Moon drumming performance in a live setting, in my opinion. I just love his work here on this live album. It's great stuff, and one of the musicians that I wish I would have gotten the chance to see live definitely would have to have been Keith Moon, and in particular The Who in their prime with Keith Moon on drums. Just would have been such a fantastic show. I wish I would have seen it, but from every account that you hear, whether it be a live album or on YouTube, wherever, just fantastic stuff. Keith Moon, one of the most enigmatic drummers of all time as well. So unique and such a powerful player. definitely belongs on the list here in the top 3, and definitely belongs at number 1 here today. So coming in at number 1, my all-time favorite drummer, got to go with the late, great Keith Moon from The Who. So that wraps up my list of top 10 greatest classic rock drummers of all time, which should be visible right over here. And if your favorite drummer did not appear in this video and they are in a heavy metal band, just know that next week I am going to be doing a sequel video here on the channel counting down the top 10 greatest heavy metal drummers of all time, so chances are they will be included in that list. But if you enjoyed this particular video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel down below, and help me reach my goal of 400 subs here on YouTube. Turn on the bell for notifications to be notified of a new upload, and let me know down in the comments below who are some of your favorite classic rock drummers of all time. I'd be very interested in hearing some of your guys' picks, so please let me know down in the comments below. Till next time, it's the CD guy, Johnny Z, signing off. Take care, everybody.